Hey guys, let's say you're looking for an ice fishing setup and you don't have that much money to spend and you want something that can do it all or do most of it. This is what I would recommend for you guys. Anywhere from a 28 to 36 inch rod, medium or medium light action. This is going to be just light enough for panfish so that you're not horsing them in. You can get a little bit of fight out of them, but just strong enough to get in any bigger walleye or any bigger trout or bigger species like that. 28 to 36 inches, medium or medium light. A lot of these rods vary quite a bit. So some of the medium action ones, the tip is super stiff and some of them almost have like a noodle tip. So you want to get a tip in between that has some good backbone to it. So when you set a hook on the fish like that, it's got a good bend to it, but it still has some good backbone so you can really get those fish into the mouths of walleye or bass or any of the fish with a little bit tougher mouths. But you also want a tip that will absorb some of those head shakes. So when those fish get up to the hole and they start shaking at the hole, they can't really get any leverage and throw that hook. It'll happen occasionally, it's bound to happen once in a while, but you have a better chance of landing those fish if you got a decent tip action there where it'll give those fish some room to run and not give them any leverage. If you're using a super stiff rod that they like every time they pull, the rod does not give at all, it's a lot easier for those fish to get some leverage and throw those hooks. So what you're looking for a tip, like I said, strong enough so you can get a good hook set on them, but light enough that it'll let those fish run a little bit. So what you want to do, just grab the rod, just push down on the tip, and you want it to, with a little bit of pressure, bend nicely like that, but you don't want it to just easily fold over, and you don't want it to be just super stiff and not bending at all. So this one is a Boo Garcia Veritas Ice 29-inch medium action, and this one is really awesome. It's got a good reel seat and everything here. You can feel the blank right here and right here, so when you're jigging, you get a really good feel for what that lure is doing down there, and you can feel bites pretty well on that. So this is an ideal setup right here for 20 bucks. If you want to spend a little bit more money and get a little bit nicer rod, or if you want a custom rod or whatever, you can definitely do that, but for 20 bucks, it's really hard to beat a budget option like this one right here. And then you're going to want to pair this with either an inline reel, which you can get inline reels for anywhere from like 30, 35 bucks. You can get a pretty good, cheap 13 Fishing or Eagle Claw inline reel. Just make sure it's not too heavy. If you want to spend upwards of 100 bucks on the Black Betty Free Fall by 13 Fishing, those are really nice reels and they're definitely worth it. But if you're looking for a budget option, the $35 13 Fishing Descent reels would work good. Otherwise, you can just get a little spinning reel like this. So this one is, I believe, a 1000 size reel. Spinning reels come in either, depending on the brand, they'll come in 10, 20, 30, 40, or 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. You either want a 10 or a 20, or a 1000 or a 2000. You don't want one too heavy or too big. And then 500 size reel is just a little bit too small. So anywhere from 1000 to 2000, 1500 would probably be the ideal size. What you pair with this is 6-pound test fluorocarbon ice line. Braid is nice, but if you're fishing out of a shack and it's cold out, the braid tends to freeze to the guides, and then those little ice chunks are sharp and they will like fray the line. So I definitely moved away from braided line fishing for ice fishing. The ice fluoro seems to be the best, and 6-pound test is kind of the sweet spot where it's not overkill for those sunnies and crappies. You will get them in a little bit faster than if you're using 4-pound test line and a crappie rod, but it's still, you're not horsing them in with this thing. You still get a pretty good fight with it. And 6-pound test is good enough to where if you're fishing jumbo perch or you're fishing largemouth bass or fishing like 15 to 20 inch eater walleyes, this is a great setup for that. And it does have strength to get in some of those bigger fish. So if you're up at Lake of the Woods or Lake Winnipeg targeting specifically those trophy 28-inch plus walleyes, I probably would get a bigger setup than this. But if the chances are low that you're going to get one of those fish, but they are there, and you do happen to hook up into a 28-inch walleye or something like that, as long as that fish doesn't have any weeds or timber or anything to swim into, this will get them in. I have got in 30+ inch northerns on 4-pound test line and a little crappie noodle rod, and it's a long fight and it's not really good for the fish to play them that terribly long, but it will get the job done. So stepping up to a little bit heavier rod with 6-pound test just ensures that you do have the power to get in some of those bigger fish if when needed, and you probably will occasionally catch those fish. I mean, I'm catching, like I said, 30-inch northerns on a little 1-inch crappie plastic. So if you're using something like a little Rip and Wrap or Jig and Minnow or anything like this for those big crappies or bass or walleye, you will eventually get bigger walleye or big bass, 5-pound bass or 30+ inch northerns on this. So just have a setup like this that you really get a good play on those smaller fish and you really get a good fight on them while not playing them to death and just battling them for several minutes and tiring the fish out and having a good chance of killing that fish. This one will get them in fast enough, and like I said, if you get any of those big fish, it does have the power to bring them in. You're gonna have to play them, you're gonna have to set the drag, but it can be done. So if you're looking for a cheap option, this one right here would cost me, with the line, the lure, the rod, and the reel, about $60. So not a huge investment in there. If you're someone that only goes ice fishing with your dad or with your friends or anything like that, you only go on a couple ice fishing trips a year and you need a rod and reel that can do it all, this is definitely my top recommendation here. So if you guys have any questions about the setup, let me know. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I give away free $25 bait package every 100 subscribers to a random subscriber who I just draw out of a hat. So it's a good chance to support the channel and win some free baits for yourself. And you can see me using this in action, catching crappie, bass, pike, hopefully even a walleye. So subscribe to the channel if you're new, like I said, and we will test this bad boy out. If you have any questions about any ice fishing gear setups, feel free to ask in the comments section, and I will see you guys in the next video.